咁我哋翻到嚟我哋黑木崖嘅節目。咁頭先講到Foucault啦，即係因為我哋諗到問題就係點解我哋現代社會係咁樣運作，背後其實係有涉及到好多 discipline 嘅問題，即係譬如我哋動用咗好多 knowledge 嘅嘢，譬如我哋人口嘅管理啊，或者係其實日本人係好明顯嘅，即係譬如我哋成日聽到啲人話，喂，日本仔原來成日都 prepare for 災難，即係其實佢哋有一種即係一種運作嘅模式，令到佢哋成日都要諗，喂，災難嘅時候應該點做啊？點樣應變啊？巴拉巴拉咁。其實呢個都係好強嘅一種對於即係人嘅一種社會嘅控制嘅。咁譬如我哋話，喂，點解大陸嗰啲人唔得啊？香港人就搶鹽咁咯。In a sense 咧，係因為我哋嗰個社會嘅控制嗰個 discipline 係冇咁強，即係我哋冇咁瘋狂咁樣去將呢啲人要 fall in line，咁所以會有啲唔同嘢走出嚟。咁當然我哋唔係話搶鹽係合理咧，就剛才都唔係講呢樣嘢。嗱，倒翻轉頭如果同搶鹽相關嘅咧，我覺得係一個相關嘅問題就係所謂國民性嘅問題，即係好多人都會即係最近另外一個討論就話、有國民性啊，我哋即係中國人嘅國民性就渣啦，嗱香港人渣啦，咁啊日本就係好嘅咁樣。咁但係呢個咧我啲來文度都有講過，即係最近都有一篇文章再傳嘅，即係網上再傳過嘅就係所謂柏楊的誘惑。我唔知有冇聽過柏楊？柏楊就寫咗一本著名嘅書叫《醜陋的中國人》。咁其實呢個係一個好好嘅垃圾桶嚟嘅，就係、你見到中國有啲咩事唔掂咧，咁你就可以鬧一句，因為佢哋係醜陋嘅中國人。咁然後就解釋咗嗰件事啦。咁譬如你話，點解搶鹽咧？你愚昧無知嘅婦孺有親事咧就只顧自己，就唔顧呢個社會嘅安寧同運作。佢哋係咩？佢哋係醜陋嘅中國人。咁即係譬如咁倒翻轉頭，咁當然反轉嘅就係即係守秩序嘅日本人啦，文明嘅日本人啦，或者係諸如此類嘅。咁但係我哋應該去問翻轉頭，點解有國民性呢樣嘢咧？嗱，原本咧，如果我哋從一啲譬如社會科學嘅角度出發咧，就應該冇所謂國民性，因為冇一個叫民族 DNA 嘅東西。即係人嘅行為應該唔係受到某一啲原初嘅 DNA 決定，而係因為佢嘅社會環境或者條件去限制而製造出嚟嘅結果。譬如日本今次嘅事，即係如果大家上網睇下嘅時候咧，發覺原來日本人咧平時就已經對呢個核危機咧，即係對於核電已經有一啲解釋㗎。即係佢哋會做一啲即係解説咁樣啦。另外今次嘅核電廠出現問題之後咧，亦都有好多漫畫啊，或者係一啲圖像化嘅東西咧，係好簡單易明咁樣咧，用一啲動畫嘅圖表咧，同埋用一啲 QT 嘅方式咧，去解釋核災難係乜嘢。咁呢啲令到日本人咧冇咁容易進入恐慌裏邊。咁呢啲係咪國民性咧？咁我唔知喎，即係其實可能只係日本人慣於一種現代社會嘅生存方式。呢種生存方式就係佢哋明白資訊啦，明白知識啦，係可以改變一啲人嘅活動同埋行為。咁然後佢哋好依賴呢樣嘢去處理一啲危機啊，或者去處理佢哋面對嘅 situation。咁然後我哋冇掌握到呢啲技術嘅。咁所以如果用呢啲咁嘅語言咧，我哋都話其實咧呢個唔係我哋國民性嘅問題，呢個係我哋 disciplinary 嘅技術嘅 technique 咧係唔夠呢個日本人高，即係只係咁嘅。咁但係背後我哋再問咧，其實呢一啲嘢代表乜嘢？即係對於人嚟講，究竟 discipline 係一回咩事咧？對於社會嘅發展又係一回咩事咧？喺一種咁 discipline 裏邊，人嘅生存又係呈現出一啲咩面向咧
？Just I'm kind of thinking about now we're talking about Foucault. Foucault's whole with discipline comes a certain disposition, right? To a certain mode of governmentality. And for Foucault, the predominant form of power today is biopower, right? Biopolitics. And I mean, Giddens talks about this too, which is very interesting, Giddens, when he talks about the third way, he's saying, okay, there's no more left socialism, there's no more right, nationalist kind of fascist sort of communitarian project, right? Nowadays, the thing that matters is what he calls life politics, right? Life politics, which is a politics of the individual, his emotions, the kinds of problems he goes through in his life and stuff like that. And this all kind of relates to, what Hannah Arendt is talking about when it comes to politics. Like Hannah Arendt says, the modern world is about the unnatural growth of the natural, right? Like we only nowadays look at the human being as a kind of animal that survives in this world. That's what, I mean, Alain Badiou says this too. Alain Badiou says, well, the human being today is a human animal. It's no longer the political agent. And it is kind of, unfortunately, today, because we've been talking about all this scarcity of energy, scarcity of water, scarcity of food, scarcity of agricultural land. You know, all of these things that have been privatized and marketized and rendered into increasingly scarce resources for human existence. Effectively, we have all been plunged by capitalism to becoming survivalist animals, you know? And I'm just kind of thinking, like, in kind of in relation to what you were talking about, as far as, like, you know, Japanese people being very orderly and stuff like this, it's very interesting to look at this situation from kind of an ideological perspective, because in the South China Morning Post, I think 2 or 3 days ago, there was an article that was written by the Associated Press, and they said something about, they were comparing Japan as being a very civilized, orderly kind of country, and comparing it to failed states, like so-called failed states, like Pakistan or Haiti and countries like that. And actually, like, you know, it's not an innocent comparison, because this actually even relates to what we've been talking about American hegemony and stuff like that, is that countries like Haiti or countries like Pakistan, is like, what you're saying is that there's no such thing as some kind of cultural gene that kind of like predisposes people to be corrupt or not corrupt, right? And like kind of the dominant ideology these days says, okay, well, these countries are failed because they will forever be ruled by these military elites that just suck up all the foreign aid for themselves, and you know, these people are almost like biologically incapable of handling a crisis properly, you know. But that all relates to the fact that countries like Haiti or Pakistan, every time they have tried to nationalize their national resources or try to stand up on their own, they've been crushed by imperialist power. And I'm kind of thinking about, you know, Hurricane Katrina as well, which was also a very, very interesting kind of spectacle, because we all remember in Hurricane Katrina there were riot-like situations, and the cameramen liked to pick up on, you know, lots of African Americans that went around, like, you know, smashing stores and, like, you know, raping people and looting things and all this kind of stuff, you know, to kind of reinforce this image of, you know, there being certain people that are like kind of congenitally incapable of being civilized. But the interesting thing about Hurricane Katrina, as we all know, is the kind of spontaneous, like on the ground sort of initiatives that people started to aid hurricane victims. Like, I can't remember his name, but there was that guy that used to be a Black Panther, and he set up, like, you know, his own like home like soup kitchen to distribute food in an efficient way to people. And this actually relates to kind of socialist democratic politics, because the question now is, in Japan with the earthquake, right? It's like this massive destruction of fixed capital in Japan, this mass destruction of infrastructure, could be very beneficial for the Japanese economy, which is the disturbing part, you know. Like, it effectively functions like an economic crisis. So now the Japanese government can impose serious austerity measures on the Japanese people, saying, okay, well, we have to reconstruct the country, you guys have to accept all of these cuts, you know, and we will reconstruct it the way we want, we will contract it to the people that we want to.
It reminds us of shop doctrine of Naomi Klein.
Yeah, exactly. But the question now is whether the Japanese people will pull together their skills and resources to create a kind of democratic solution to the reconstruction of Japan, where they can dictate how this reconstruction is going to take place, who is going to be contracted to, who is going to be employed, and under what conditions, or if, you know, the government just, you know, imposes it from the top down. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot to learn from something like Hurricane Katrina, in that, you know, people can can solve solutions in a democratic fashion. And that is something that the media does not often talk about. It likes to reduce us to being these kind of biopolitical animals that require some kind of.
但係呢個係好有趣，因為即係譬如我哋最近睇好多有關日本嘅即係日本人嘅討論啦，就係佢哋會發覺日本人係一個好依賴政府嘅民族，即係佢好慣於依賴政府嘅即係譬如有新事我哋就睇 NHK 啊，發生啲咩嘢我哋聽話，咁然後如果有咩重建有咩成咧，咁我哋就靠政府做啦咁而呢個亦都。即係我唔敢話民族性，但係日本嘅歷史長期以嚟都係咁。即係譬如由日本嘅明治維新開始，就已經見到一個 strong state 點樣去帶動成個國家去進入 modernity 嘅現代化 modernization blah 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 係點樣行。咁但係譬如當然咧，亦都有一啲人，即係譬如有啲評論會走出嚟話可能今次呢個地震會成為一個 rupture，因為即係雖然日本人到而家都好似好信任政府咁，但係我已經見到好多日本人開始質疑東電嘅可信性啦，即係大企業，即係日本其實不嬲政府同大企業分唔開，即係嗰個 legitimacy，即係我哋質疑大企業啦，質疑政府嘅可行性。咁然後呢個呼喚嘅唔係市場化，而係一種對於民間社會即係獨立或者自主嘅運作，即係唔係話佢要脫離日本啦，而係話究竟可唔可以靠自己去做一啲嘢咧？即係呢個就係頭先阿 Nin 你所講話，譬如我哋面對一個咁大嘅crisis 之後，究竟我哋係因此而將我哋交晒出嚟俾政府幫你搞掂佢，然後所以我哋要接受好多嘅資源嘅剝削啊，或者係成咧，定係我哋話唔係我哋夠啦 ，we say that it's enough，咁然後我哋重新再走出嚟話唔係，咁其實如果係咁咧，咁就係話我哋能夠擺脱嗰種純粹嘅 disciplinary 嘅政府嘅國家機器嘅運作，然後去揾，如果根據 Hannah Arendt 所講就係 action 嘅可能。
I think one of the things that we kind of have to break is like kind of what you're saying. It kind of relates to what we kind of talked about last time with Zizek talking about the big other. Is that for us, we tend to presume that, I mean, we make fun of the government all the time, but somehow in the back of the minds we presume that somehow they must know what they're doing. On some level, these people are somehow qualified, to lead. And it's their job to be able to do it. So we make fun of them for not fulfilling their job in the way that we think.
呢個喺香港更加明顯，即係好多人鬧政府係，即係譬如你打開報紙，即係我而家冇邊份報紙唔鬧政府。但係當你話喂，不如我哋，如果你鬧政府，你應該係質疑政府嘅合法性啦，巴拉巴拉。咁個結論應該係 translate to， 咁我哋就起嚟，然後搞一個自己嘅政府啦。我哋應該 democratize 佢，我哋應該係成為一個更加全民參與嘅一個政治嘅討論嘅，巴拉巴拉咁。但係事實上每次都唔係變成咁嘅，每次都係政府搞唔掂啦，咁我哋就揾政府再搞一嚿嘢出嚟，然後可能好快佢又唔掂，咁我哋就代入呢個循環。咁我哋希望今次日本人即係我哋即係最後送上我哋嘅祝福啦，即係 Key Trade 就希望佢哋可以
Socialist Japan，
係啦，我哋希望佢能夠走出呢個陰霾啦，同埋能夠避過一啲我哋覺得係好恐怖嘅結果，係啦。咁今日時間差唔多，希望下一次黑木人再同大家見面。